Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Well, we've got a roadmap. What a great thing. So, they've finally got it together and figured out what's going on and shared that with us, which is really great. Anytime something like this happens in the hobby, it's really good. So it looks like, at least from their point of view, Games Workshop I'm talking about, their logistics side of things is likely to be a little bit more resolved because they're showing us what's coming up next, at least for Age of Sigmar, and that's great. So, we've got Yhetee, Deepkin, we've got the Fire Slayers, we've got Nighthorn, and we've got the Daughters of Cain. So, and they even tease us with a couple extras, as it says in the title here. So Age of Sigmar roadmap, chart out the next 4 Battletomes, or is it 6? So this is great, and I think that hopefully they stick to that and they keep that up just to give us an idea about what's coming. It's great for us, as hobbyists and consumers of this product to have some idea of what's coming up, as they're moving into a much more rapid cycle for their game and so on. This allows tournament players to prepare and change up whatever they need to do if they're meta chasing and so on. And for just casual gamers, painters and all of that, and even content creators like myself and others, it lets us decide what we're going to do next, whether you've got like a cool army you want to do, or you're just painting stuff and putting it on Instagram, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, whatever kind of part of this hobby that you interact with, or it's just for yourself, knowing what's coming up a little bit in advance lets you save, lets you prepare for what you want and all that kind of stuff, and it's really nice to see. So let's get into this and have a little look. So we've got these first ones here. So looking pretty cool. I like the art on these. The art generally has been pretty cool, like for Age of Sigmar, especially these newer books and these newer specialty boxes. I guess some people are calling them FOMO boxes, but these sort of, new release boxes with 2 armies in them. Their art on their covers are really nice. Just generally speaking, everything, is pretty well put together. And I love the red on the trim here. This reminds me of old school fantasy. It's exactly what they're going for, and they certainly achieve that. It makes me feel like we're in that world, maybe not literally, but just the feeling, and also that comes across in some of their design choices and that sort of thing. It does kind of feel like they're drawing more from inspiration from earlier times, which is really nice. Certainly in 40k that's true, but also in Age of Sigmar too. They're still if you look at the Soul Black Gravelords range and Curse City, you can see that old fantasy, old world kind of influence coming through in the sculpting. I'm sure these books will all be great, or at least the Yhetee should be good. I don't know. It's a very hard book to balance Fire Slayers and make them good, but hopefully they have a good crack at it and we see something interesting. I'm always hopeful. So that's great, and we've got the figures. So at the moment, this is all we know that's coming. These are in that box that I was talking about. And they're cool. They're on foot characters, so it's going to be interesting to see whether they're actually taken or not. Both these armies have very, very sort of, I guess, tight kind of balancing in terms of what's in your list, and taking something out or in is tricky. To find the points to put either one of these characters in the current sort of builds that people tend to run, at least if you're playing in a more competitive way, they might find it difficult to put these in. Maybe not. It depends on the points, as I said, but I don't know. We'll see. But they're definitely cool models, and I'll definitely be mucking around with at least, as I've previously mentioned, this year I'm going to be playing with some Elven stuff and, painting some Elven stuff. So I'm going to be dabbling in this the first time in over 30 years of actually, I've never painted an elf of any sort. So, I've got some ideas on the way. So you'll see some tutorials on the channel for sure. I've got some interesting color palette choices for these, so that'll be fun. But even a good old dwarf with a mohawk is always good to paint, right? So you could do some interesting stuff with this. I think that if you were playing Fire Slayers, you definitely play around with skin tones. I'd like to see, if I was doing this, I would really play around with doing a sort of fade from dark to light, and move through some different color tones, or almost like, so their sort of motif is fire, right? So lava, that sort of thing. They could almost have rocky skin or stone skin. I know that's more of the Chaos Dwarf, using magic, but you could do some fun things with their flesh and make it interesting to give you something different to do than just doing this sort of pale skin on everything. I think that would be fun, even mixing it up per unit. You change it up and give yourself a wider color palette to play with. I think that would be really, really fun. Who knows? Maybe I'll play around with that this year, and we'll do a couple of them. But yeah, overall, this should be cool for the meta. You know, these two armies coming out, it'll mix it up a little bit. And there's the box, which we've already kind of looked at, so I won't go into it too deeply here. But I just wanted to let you know that this article's up and that they're talking about it, and all the language and everything that they're using lately that I've noticed has been really positive and moving towards that sort of, you know, filling us in and keeping us part of the picture, and also looking back at older art and putting it in articles and talking about it, and saying things like, for the older book, you know, a big release, a massive release, these types of words, you know, trying to at least put across some expression of I guess, a genuine desire to make us part of the process, you know, as the hobbyists, as the customers of this, you know. And it's been around for a long time, and there's generations of people in this hobby, and that's a really cool thing. To acknowledge that is awesome. So yeah, pretty good. So then we've got over here, we've got the Nighthaunt and the Daughters of Cain. So they'll be the next ones up. So I'm assuming this is probably going to be something like, what are we in now? We in February now? Yeah, February. So maybe March, April, and then maybe May, June, or something like that. Or if they're doing a double, like both in 1 month, maybe it's only a couple of months for each of these. We have seen that in the past, so possibly that's what's going on. I didn't notice that they talked about that, but in the article, but maybe they did and I just missed it. But, you know, either way, it's in the next few months. We'll just say the next 3 months we're going to see these books come out. You know, even though they're confident, there may still be logistic issues with all of this, but at least we have some kind of idea of about what's coming. The really interesting thing will be what comes after this. So if we have a look down here, we've got this teaser. Now, the teaser, you know, we've got a Chaos book and an Order book. So I think that they mention a mischievous thing reference here. Yeah, so Chaos Flavored Mischief. So that could be Skaven. A lot of people have talked about that being Skaven. That'd be nice. I think Skaven are a nice thing to add into the mix currently. I think that would, you know, add a bit more, I guess, the Horde list, you know, into the meta and into generally into people's, you know, gaming groups and so on that play Skaven. That'll boost that side of things up and maybe change up what people are taking and you know, that sort of thing. As I said, when I was reviewing the Nurgle book, at the moment, it's kind of a bit limited, but they do have some little funky little things that they can play around with if they are going up against hordes. And if we see the meta shift towards that, who knows, maybe the Nurgle becomes a bit more fun and we see a few more styles of play in there. So that might be cool. But, you know, otherwise, all in all, I'm always happy for Chaos. So hopefully it is Skaven, because they're in desperate need of a new update, right, for the models and the rules. And then this Order one's interesting. It could be anything from another Lumineth book to Sylvaneth. Could be, you know, any number of things, or even a new one. You know, could be dwarves, could be a new dwarf race, could be anything. You know, then they're pretty much known for bringing in a new army every now and again per edition, and we could see that this year or maybe next year. But either way, I'd say this is more likely to be, if I was doing it, and what I tend to see here is that armies that they already kind of have sorted, they tend to throw them in when it's not like a gimme, but you know, if you've already kind of designed the range and the rules are pretty much there and they only need to do, you know, minor tweaks, like for instance, the Nurgle book, you know, they didn't need to really add much. They were just playing with the rules, and that's just printing a book and then adding one model in. You know, that's nice and easy. Same with Lumineth. They don't really have to bring out any new models for that. They just have to make a book. And so it gives them an extra one they can get done quickly to move on to the more difficult ones, like Skaven, or like other ones that need much more, Beasts of Chaos, that need much more developed kind of time. You know, that would take much longer than something like Lumineth. So, you know, we might see that, because that's a nice easy one to get out of the way and get it on the board and get it playing in 3rd edition, you know, stuff like that. I think those types of armies, this will be something that they can do relatively fast, and probably the Chaos one is something that's more developed. Or it could just be, you know, the main Chaos faction. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But this Mischief thing tends to suggest that it might be Skaven. So yeah, I won't go on too much more about that. I'm sure everyone has their own opinion on what they'll be. But that's a really great map. Look, we've got at least 6 armies coming within the next. Okay, so it's got winter, spring, and summer. Okay, so this is actually much further down in the timeline. So we're looking at I guess this very soon, and Nighthaunt and Daughters of Cain sometime in that mid period of the year, and then this is late. So actually, it's not coming out as quickly as I thought. So yeah, all right, that's fine though. But at least we know, you know, at least we know. So that's cool. All right, so yeah, finally, I think we'll just get on to some nice little mini, I don't know, assessment, I guess, for something that's really fun, which is Blood Bowl, and they've got a new mini, so I want to take a look at it and give my sculptor's eye on it and tell you what I think about it for anyone that's still listening to this. So we've got a Yhetee, and it's pretty interesting. It's a departure from their normal design language. This is quite, I guess, outside of what they would normally choose to do. I haven't seen the normal Yhetee models, but this feels quite unique. It's got a very, very stylized approach to the anatomy. It almost feels like a World of Warcraft figure, It's got really, really exaggerated limbs, almost comic-like, The face is still relatively, I guess, more in the Games Workshop vein, but a lot of these forms on this figure are really over-exaggerated in almost comic style. There's not a lot of grimdark here except for that face and a few elements, but it is a much more simplified, like, even look at this skull, and that's not to say that's a bad thing, but it's just an interesting difference in this particular model. So I'd be interested to know who the sculptor was and whether it was maybe a newer sculptor that they brought onto the team or something like that, because it does feel a little bit different to what they would normally bring out. I don't know. I could be wrong. I haven't had a good look at the Ogre Tribe's range and seen whether they've carried this type of language forward in their other sculpts. But it is a really interesting figure for that reason. So maybe there's a new sculptor in there doing something fresh. That's cool. The figure itself, yeah, not bad. It's very Blood Bowl. It's cool. It's got all the trappings that you want in a Blood Bowl figure. I'm sure anyone that's into Blood Bowl is going to be happy with this. Depending on the rules, obviously. But it's a fun one, and it's something unique. I don't know whether this is going to continue in their Blood Bowl range or spread across into the other sub games. But I've said this many times. This is the place to play around with that and let the sculptors have a bit of fun with it, because they can do different things, unique little ideas, and it doesn't really harm anything. It's just one figure. Whether it's super popular or not doesn't really matter. But it just gives us a little bit of an influx of interesting characters, and I think that's really important. So yeah, kudos to the sculptor. It's a nice one for sure. It's definitely got its own like sensibility and style to it, which is unique. I think so for sure. And there's a ton of different things. I guess if I was going to do him, yeah, maybe I'd play around with the hair. You could do some interesting, different staining and shadows into this hair. You could really play with it. Even do sort of like albino skin, maybe invert it and do darker hair with like really pallid skin tones. It would end up looking a bit more like a ghoul, maybe. That'd be really fun. That'd be some interesting like flip on the standard sort of motif for the Yhetee. So some really interesting stuff you could do there. Blood effects and so on this one would be really cool. So yeah, I thought I'd leave you with that. Just something really fun for the Blood Bowl people out there. But overall, it's looking pretty positive for the new year. We've got the roadmap. We've got lots of great AOS figures and armies coming, and obviously this sub game stuff is always really cool to look at. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.